right now. Boom, we're back on. All right, perfect. The how-to guide to create an elite culture. Sorry, Coach Gumm, I made that title up. I know, and you know, you're the culture guy, not just the coin term, but the real deal. So I'm going to be quiet and let Coach Gumm do his thing. Go ahead, Coach. You're muted, bud.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And man, after going after Jordan, I already felt dumb, but now I feel a lot more dumb. So I'm going to go ahead and share. You know, I think the important thing here is, you know, I see a lot of guys with way smarter, way better backgrounds than I am as far as strength and conditioning. And you know, to be honest, you know, I'm kind of the football guy that fell into it, honestly, because of culture. That was the big thing is when I first got into it, you know, I saw way too many things not done the right way, and not necessarily my way, but just weren't emphasized. You know, accountability wasn't emphasized. There was no competition, the organizational piece. So, you know, it's not necessarily, I guess, the X's and O's, quote unquote, from a football term within strength conditioning that I is kind of what I hang my hat on, but the culture part. And so I'm going to touch a little bit on that. And let's see here. Let me shrink this down. All right, you got me?
Yep, good to go.
Okay. There's my contact info. And I think I put it on the last slide too, but you guys can kind of see that there. I just want to show you a little bit. This is, you know, I'm blessed. I'm from Wisconsin, and obviously it gets cold here, but you know, we're one of the few places in the state that has a, you know, 60-yard indoor practice facility connected to our multi-million-dollar weight room. We have 20 racks in there, plus, as you can see here, an additional dumbbell auxiliary room. So facilities are not an issue, but the reason I put that on there is because when we're talking about culture, guys, I've been in schools. You know, my first job, I was a college coach for a while, but when I got an assistant job, my first assistant job, little tiny school in Central Illinois, didn't have much. And again, you know, from there, starting there all the way to where I am now, you know, and everywhere in between. And Josh and I connected in Rockford, Illinois, and Josh knows, you know, there when I was an assistant there and on the strength conditioning board there, you know, with the demographic there, I don't know if it gets much worse. And then my last head coaching job before the one I'm at now, we were probably in the wealthiest school district in the state in terms of just family. So, you know, but the common denominator in all that is size of school, ethnicity, demographic, whatever is the culture. And, you know, what we're going to talk tonight, Josh asked me to talk about our NEL program, and I'll touch about that. But before I get to that, you know, we're going to touch on some other foundational stuff. The common denominator, regardless, is culture, like I said before. And even going back to, I think 2011 was the first year I really started implementing our No Excuses League program. But it honestly hasn't changed a ton since then. You know, the kids have obviously, the strength and conditioning world as a whole has changed, and education about it and for the better. But as far as just, you know, the importance and you know, I think it's one of the trendiest things and most catchphrase words out there nowadays is culture. You hear it all the time, but it's real. And so I'm going to try to touch a little bit on that. And I'm fortunate now. I am involved in strength conditioning. I'm in there every day with our guys when I'm not in season as a head football coach. But our head strength coach, you can see down here, Justin Seeley, he does an awesome job with our guys, and we see eye to eye on a lot of things. And this job, I guess, keep in mind a little bit too, I just got in February. And yeah, I know I'm a little crazy taking it with all the COVID stuff going on. But so some of the stuff I'm going to show you tonight is from previous stops, just because we're limited, obviously, with limitations with all the COVID stuff going on. This is our culture poster, I guess, quote unquote, you could say, is our mantra, chop the wood. And it stands for consistent habits of precision, and everything that we're about is it's a process oriented deal. And you know, I know some of this stuff people aren't the biggest fans of because they think it's kind of cheesy and all that stuff, but it's not what we do, it's who we are. It's something our kids grasp onto. It's something when things get tough that they're able to latch onto and go back to. And really, it's the foundation for everything that they do. It's not just football, it's life. It's so much of that. And we have a unity council within our program, but as you know, a lot of what I'm going to talk tonight has to do with football, but it's not football, it's athletics as a whole, and it's your culture as a whole, your strength and conditioning culture. And I think the one common denominator really that got me interested in strength and conditioning, maybe more than anything else, especially at the high school level, is you have an opportunity to impact every single kid in your school. And that's the common denominator, is they're spending time in the weight room, ideally, right? All your athletes. And so it brings together multiple sports. It brings together multiple ethnicities. It brings together multiple, you know, genders and all that stuff. And it's the common deal. And so for us, you know, this wasn't driven by me. I had the mantra, I've used it in the past. It's been something that I've built a lot on and I came up with, but our pillars, our kids came up with. And I think that's important when you come up with a culture and you come up with kind of a mantra of what you're going to be, is give the kids say, because I think they're gonna own it a lot more, right? And so with our pillars, you look over the side, it spells Chargers. Obviously, that's our mascot, but they came up with those terms and they came up with those definitions. And notice those definitions aren't lengthy. They're short, they're simple. Our kids can regurgitate them at the snap of a finger. They know every single one of them word by word, what they mean and what they're about. And we tie them into everything that we do. You know, our word of the week, you know, whether it be a monthly theme, a weekly theme, whatever. But those things are tied into so much of what we do. And it's posted everywhere around our locker room, our weight room, and all that. So our mission and vision statement, again, simple, to the point, but again, was driven by our players. And I think that's important. How do we define culture? I think this is important too. If you want to talk about certain things, how are you defining them? And not just defining them on paper, because I think, you know, everything's great to have posters and t-shirts, all that, but are you really about it? It's not the what, it's the how, and are you doing it? And so in our program, we define culture as connecting people. You know, culture is your norms, your values, beliefs, but and we call that our how, not our what, but our how we do things. But for us, everything comes back to connecting people. And you want to talk about elite cultures, what are those and what do those look like? Well, it's all a foundation in relationships and love, right? I think there's two different things that can drive and motivate people. It's fear and it's love. And our culture is driven on love and connecting with others. And so that is how we define it. How do you know your culture is working? Very simple. Okay. Your best players are your hardest workers. All right. And obviously that's easy. That's tangible. You can measure that. Their voice becomes your voice. Somebody else earlier said something like that. Like when you're using terms and buzzwords and terminology, and the kids start to do the same exact thing, I think that's when you know you got something special. And at the same time, you know, I think that the other thing that's cool with strength conditioning specifically, but you know, you have an impact with so many kids across your school. And obviously football, you know, I always say it's the front porch of your house or of your school, because it kind of kicks everything off. It gets everybody excited, but it's amazing how a football program can change not only just a football culture, but a whole entire school culture. Well, I think even more so with your strength conditioning program is with those kids talking, breathing, believing, eating, sleeping, what you do and what you talk about and what you're about as a program, how much better is your school because of that? So I think that's important to remember. 3 types of teams. You know, there's bad teams, nobody leads. Everybody's seen that. Average teams, coaches lead. And obviously there's a fair share of that out there, but elite teams and championship programs are player led and player driven. And so much of a culture is built in the quote unquote the off season, right? It's not, yeah, there's a lot that you can do within your sport and within your season. But when I look back in my college, you know, days and my high school days being an athlete, the best teams were built in the weight room. Okay. And in our facility, in our classroom, essentially. So I think that's important to remember. Why? Okay. Why have a culture? Why have a mantra? Because for us, it sets a standard. Okay. You only get, the bar that you set. All right. You are what you tolerate. You get what you emphasize. If you allow little things to slide, then that's what you're going to get. And it's going to show. It separates you from everybody else. Okay. You know, and I put on here Iowa State. Josh and I were actually talking about it before. Fittingly so. You know, Iowa State beats Texas this past weekend. Well, we were fortunate enough as a football staff the last couple of springs, we run their 3 safety defense. And so we visited them and I'm a big culture guy. You can probably see some PJ Fleck in here a little bit. And I know a lot of people aren't a huge fan of him, but if you go around their program, you get to start to taste it and feel it. And we visited Minnesota and Western Michigan 2 springs in a row. And then the last 3 years we've spent with Iowa State. And there's a reason that they're beating teams that they probably shouldn't. It's not because of their talent. It's because they love each other more than their opponent. And their culture is elite. Their head coach and their coaching staff are extremely, extremely genuine and truly care about their players. And I think that's important. It defines how you'll do everything, right? It defines how you do everything in your program. It's bigger than strength conditioning. It's bigger than football. It's bigger than basketball, whatever sport, it's bigger than that. It's life. When we talk about finish, it's not just through a line, or through a cone, but hey, it's as a job, finish in your job, finish as a father, finish as a husband, finish in your faith, whatever it may be. It's tangible things to real life. Winning in everything that you do is taught as a value. Okay. And obviously winning, you want to be successful. You want to compete your tail off. Jacob talked about competition earlier. I'm going to touch a ton on that, but win any opportunity that you have, win in everything that you do. Because I think as a life lesson, that's your job. You want to be the best you possibly can in your job. You want to be the best you possibly can as a husband, as a father, in your faith and all that stuff. So today's generation, though, I think with all this needs to know why, right? And when we talk about finish, why am I finishing? And we talk about winning, when competing, why? Because of the big picture, right? And I think putting that tangible evidence out there, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. I already touched on that a little bit, so I'm not going to reiterate that a ton, but prioritizing relationships and serving your athletes. What does that look like? I put a couple pictures up here because this is, like I said, this is the school I'm at now. Some of the things we did right off the bat, and even this is right when COVID happened, so this is a little bit sketchy, but again, I was willing to walk the line a little bit to make sure that our players were spending time together. So what did we do? We got a ton of nice-ish furniture and put it in our locker room. We put a TV, we put Xboxes in there, and this is before we put even a couple extra TVs, but we wanted them hanging out in the locker room more than anywhere else, more than at home, more than whatever. Obviously, negative influences are out there. We wanted them bonding and spending time with each other. And so how are we going to serve our athletes? Well, that's one way. And I'm going to touch way more on this in a second, but how are you serving them? How are you rewarding them? Is it punishment driven, or is it reward driven? Strength conditioning is one thing that brings all athletes together. I already talked about that. Creates a school culture. Who are you? Okay, who is us? This is basically us. All right, and I'm not saying this is perfect by any means. Again, I talked about before my strength and conditioning background. I am not an expert by any means, but this is what I know. Is I know we're going to compete our tails off. We're going to be physical, and we're going to finish. Those are our 3 big things. And how are we going to build those things? A lot of it happens through the off season and through the weight room. Speed, power, and explosiveness. Those are what we're shooting for. We're not out here, and I know almost everybody's talked about it now. Zach, I know, is going to talk about it next, but don't chase numbers, right? We're not in here chasing numbers. And to be honest, I used to be a big fan of like max out boards and all that stuff. And I think that's great from a competition standpoint, but now our testing weeks are more built into our normal weekly routine. So yeah, we'll test every cycle, but we're not going to miss a week of workouts. We use Team Builder. And again, funny how that works out with Hewitt on here, but we use Team Builder. And as they're putting that in with their last set, like on a testing week, it's a max set. So whatever they get at 85%, it obviously records that for them, and that becomes their new max. Is it the most accurate? As far as like close to a 1 rep max? No, obviously there's some flexibility there, but what are we really looking for? Am I looking for a magic number, or really am I looking for growth, right? And measurable growth, because I don't think if you're not measuring it, you can't, it's hard to improve on. It's hard to compete at, right? And so that's something for us that we're looking at all the time. Movement over maxes. I put that. Does it translate? If it, I could give 2 shits if a guy squats 600 pounds, and if he can't be an athlete, he can't jump and sprint, right? That doesn't matter to me. Does it translate to whatever we're doing? Them being an athlete. We, in our program, I don't know what everybody else's philosophy is, but especially I feel like at the high school setting, in a nutshell, maybe not exactly, but we pretty much have an in-season program. We have an out-of-season program. And they look very, very similar. And obviously the set and rep schemes and percentages are a little bit different, but at the end of the day, they're extremely, extremely close to looking like each other. And it's efficient that way. And really it's movement, right? Can you be an efficient mover? And can we teach the foundations, and can you maximize and get the most out of those. Compete in everything. Keep score and measured. I already talked about that. Flying 10s we do every single week, and then we do 40s once a month. Okay, and we post that, record, rank, publish, kind of like the old Tony Holler philosophy. Brad Dixon. Sprints, agilities, change of direction, warm up, exercise, and lifts. All opportunities to compete. I think there's 3 types of competition, really 2. But number 1, you get to compete against yourself and improving yourself every single day or every time you test. And then also obviously competing against your peers. And it takes a special kid and a motivation, right? You have to be self-motivated to be able to test some of that stuff, especially when you're competing against yourself outside of weight room and in your sport. Being able to compete in that area. I'll touch on our NEL system here later. Do tough things, right? You want to be physical, you want to compete, but like, what does that look like? And still being healthy. We call it mat drills. It's something we do Friday mornings. It's kind of like our competition day, like Jacob talked about earlier. It was built foundationally originally as a mat drill day, like your traditional old school college mat drills, and has turned into a wide range of competition stuff. Like our dudes, get your butt out of bed early in the morning, right? Who's going to show up mentally prepared to be able to do that? But B, who's going to compete, and we're going to keep score of it, and we're going to celebrate it, and all that stuff. And another thing too, I guess on Max's, rather than posting it, something I forgot about is we have a bell in our weight room. So every time a PR is broken and it's posted on Team Builder during a workout, dude goes over or girl goes over, rings the bell, and everybody just goes nuts. And we emphasize energy is a huge emphasis in our program, like to the point where I will have consequences if we're not energetic enough. Chop training, that's our, we do that on Friday mornings in the summer. It kind of takes a little bit of a turn once we get into the summer. And it's a lot more of kind of mental toughness, mental training, teamwork built around that type of stuff, station work. So just something different. And I'll show you that too if we have time at the end. Reward kids, I already talked about that. And then play games. I think playing games, the cool thing there is it's a sneaky way to get competitiveness in without running people into the ground. Like when I say compete, I'm not saying, grind dudes in the ground. We'll do thumb wars in the middle of a workout. Blow the whistle, stop the workout, tweet, 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 competition time, thumb wars, bam. Call 2 dudes out, compete. Who's going to win? There's a winner and there's a loser. There's a consequence. All right, bam, right back to the workout. All right. How are you going to respond to competition? I think that tells you a lot about kids. And competition has a way of making tough things fun. All right. I'm not going to go through all these. I think this is big picture culture stuff, all the different things we do to relate to our kids, and to really build the bond and build camaraderie amongst each other. And if we have time at the end, I'll touch on a lot of this stuff, some of the tangible things that we do. Again, more and more stuff here. We do a dad's decal night. There's us up in the wrestling room battling. We do Tuesdays in the winter and spring are community service days for our program. So we go around and do different stuff there. So you can see some different stuff there. Mom stuff, fundraising, culture stuff within your own school, how to get more kids and athletes and non-athletes and school kids involved with whatever your program may be. We do, like I said, our Unity Council. So we do a book study every year, and we do, I teach leadership class. And so obviously that's a huge part of your culture. Military appreciation. The picture down here, that's our middle schoolers, again, finding a way. That's a hallway. Because in the winter, obviously gym space gets limited. We now have an indoor facility, so we don't have that issue as much. Giving other coaches, I think, responsibility and giving them ownership in what they're doing. So it's not always me, the guy that ends up being the accountability and sometimes the bad guy. And I think too, I think this says a lot, and this is a note from another program on Twitter that they're thanking our kids, and our kids did this completely on their own, wrote a letter. We have axes. Every kid in our program has an axe that they carry either in their wallet or on their keychain as a reminder. They wear wristbands that remind them of it as well. And they sent this to another player on another team going through some tough stuff. They did that completely on their own. This is an elementary school kid that again, school culture, and we're in a bigger school district. We have 1,500 kids, 1,600 kids in our high school. This school here, we were about 1,500, and this is a kindergarten first grader doing this in the same school district. So I think that says a lot about your word moving, right? And are your players is your community speaking the same language that you are? How some of this might automatically play. Again, my big thing here is I'm going to get to the NEL stuff because that's what Josh wanted me to talk about. But this is more stuff. This is again, this is like rock, paper, scissors. This is a thumb war competition in the middle of a workout. This is obviously pre-COVID. This is a highlight film we put together with all the quarantine stuff going on. We are actually in person now, and we do all of our workouts really since beginning of school started, and really late summer have been in person. But late spring, you guys probably remember last year, even early spring last year and in early summer, all of our stuff was, virtual workouts. And so we did every single day, we did a competition challenge of the day. So you can see down here where we posted the winner of that challenge, that competition on social media. And we have an awesome graphics guy. My defensive coordinator does a great job with our graphics. So the presentation is his work. So you can see just the reward there. And then every week we put a highlight film together of kids, because the way that we did it is not only did they put their workouts in and send it to us, but they had to send a video of their workout. And then we had them put it on hyperlapse so that their 45-minute workout was shrunk down to about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And we could go through and watch it and kind of check them out that way. So this was an open house that we did this year. Again, how you're selling your program. So we had about 60 freshmen come up to an open house, and this is kind of what we did. Even if they're on the fence, hey, we'll put a graphic together. Good, do you put it on social media? Kind of like a college program signing day, and say, hey, this kid's ready to chop the wood for 2024. So, anyways, just some different ideas there for creating a culture. And again, I can touch through a lot of this if we have some time at the end. So, No Excuses League. What is it? To be honest, I don't know. Back in probably 2011. I saw Brad Dixon. Brad and I live, a lot of you guys in the strength and conditioning world know Brad. Brad and I live around the same area. Originally grew up, I'm originally from Quincy, Illinois, which is a central part of the state. And Brad's, basically, I don't know, a half hour away, his school district is. So we grew up around the same area. And Brad had his NEL league and had this NEL draft thing. And a lot of his stuff, because he's at a small school, was done during the summer. And it was all like football related and strength and conditioning related. And so I love the idea of the draft. And then basically I'll show you in a second what we turned that into and what it became, essentially over the last probably 5 or 6 years. This is our draft. So you can kind of see, we treat it just like an NFL draft. Our kids dress up. This picture over here is our, it's our unity council. So we as coaches, it depends year to year. It depends how good is our leadership on the team. Where do we feel like their opinion is and things like that. But sometimes I'll have the players vote on the NEL leaders, and there'll be, 6 or 7 teams with 2 NEL leaders, basically captains for their team. And they'll be the GMs that draft their team. Sometimes like next year, we're gonna have coaches are going to pick the NEL leaders because they thought that we could get a little bit better in some of our areas of leadership and some of the choices that were guys on there. So, but you can see our whole program, or 90% of our program, that's not like in a winter sport. And even if they are, some of those guys came right after practice and made it over. But, we dress up, first pick, second pick. You can see they create a presentation on their own for their pick and a logo. Axel is probably not the most politically correct there, but happened to be the picture I chose. So the idea there, have some fun with it. They come up with a theme song. So every time their pick comes up, they, do, just like the NFL draft. And then the 20 stands for like the 2020 draft. So they get up, get a hold of take a picture with a jersey. We only draft the first 4 rounds in person, just to kind of be a little bit PC. So that way guys that are drafted last or in the late rounds, they don't get their feelings hurt. And we do all of that stuff. These guys draft after everybody else is gone. And then when I post the teams and post a draft order, it's posted random after the first 4 rounds. But it gives those guys a lot of credibility that get drafted the first 4 rounds, because I'll show you in a second what they get graded on. And it says a lot about them and their character and their work ethic and their commitment to their teammates. So just a couple more pictures there of what that looks like. So the NEL system itself, and I can share this with you guys. There's not like a magic science to it. It's over years. I've just tweaked it a little bit here and there. I'm not going to go over all the details, but essentially, everybody's competing on a team. every single coach, so we have 17 coaches on staff. Every coach is responsible for a team. And then if there's extra coaches, some teams have 2 coaches, most teams have 2 coaches on their team. I oversee everything. And then I have one coach that does all the points, because the points I'll show you in a second. I have a database with all the points and how we figure it out, because it's a process. He's responsible for recording the points, and we update the points every single week on a Friday. But they get points for grades. So we like 7 times their GPA. So that way it kind of evens out. And we do that every single semester. Recruiting, if they get new kids out for the team, they have no cap on that, but they get up to, they have over 75% score after 2 weeks, their attendance and all that stuff. And they get a new kid out, they get that kid's points accumulated to their team. Obviously, attendance for off-season strength conditioning and winter and spring sports, the workouts that are on there, whether they're mat drills or daily workouts or summer workouts, whatever. We have different categories for how they get different points on that. Camps and summer activities, fundraisers, great way to encourage your kids to maximize your fundraising events. Physicals and getting school paperwork in on time, like paying for stuff on time. We always know that's a headache. Getting all their paperwork in on time. Miscellaneous, like I said, we do community service every single Tuesday in the winter and spring. And so kids that do that, they get a point for every hour. And then on top of our cap, they get bonus points for that. And honestly, these categories are infinite. If a kid goes, hey, coach, I did this, that, and the other, and they say, can I get any L points for it? Most of the time, the answer is yes. If it means that it's something that's going to help them in the community and show their high character or whatever, all that type of stuff. And then here's their categories. Like, did I reach this? Did I reach this? These are all the things that they get. They get helmet stickers. They get first choice on jersey number and equipment. I don't do juniors or seniors seniority. Like, hey, if you're in this category, you get first choice on this stuff. First choice on equipment. They get conditioning exemptions. They get T-shirts, individual T-shirts. But then I also do the winning team gets T-shirt. You can kind of see it down here. But each player will also be drafted by a coach and captain to a team. The teams will compete against each other throughout the offseason. They get points for those competition days, because a lot of them are the ones that are individual driven. They still get points for their team, but there's a lot of them that'll be team driven, and they'll get points for their team as well. And they'll get bulk points for those. The kids that are in a sport will get points for being a multi-sport athlete. So you can see it up here, winter or spring sports, they get points. So off-season kids are required to go to 3 days a week lifting, and 1 day in the Friday morning competition. The in-season athletes have to go to 2 days a week of lifting, and they have to do the Friday morning. They do not have to participate in the Friday morning workout, but they have to be there. They can participate if they want to. The other piece is 95% of our juniors and seniors lift during the school day. So the leadership push for them, all I make them, and we have block scheduling, 90-minute block scheduling every single day. So they lift every day in class, and then the other 2 days they're doing either classroom stuff or speed and agility stuff, whatever. It's a lot of movement prep, recovery day, that type of stuff. So when they're doing that, the kids that to get their attendance, they need to still show up after school, do the warm up, and then be there for 10 minutes of speed and agility to start the work, cheer their teammates on, then they're good to go. So they're only there for about 30 minutes, if that, after school. Then they're out, and we get out at like 2:20. So they're still gone by 3:00 every day because they're getting their lift during the school day. Now, Friday mornings, that's different. That's obviously everybody at the same time. The winning team will receive T-shirts and then dinner of their choice. So they get, obviously within reason. We're not going to, the best steakhouse ever in town, but and the winning coach gets a bonus as well. He gets to go out and eat with them as well. And then all the losing teams and losing coaches, the losing coaches have to pay for that dinner. And then the losing coaches also have to do extra conditioning with their players for their requirements. I also buy gift cards for the captains of the winning team, and typically it's like a Dick's gift card, a $100 Dick's gift card to the 2 captains of the winning team, and they can go purchase like cleats or whatever with that. So that's kind of the NEL system in a nutshell. I got a couple more minutes, so I'm just going to show about 2 more minutes if I can get this thing out of the way. Score file. This is what our score file looks like. And again, because of COVID this year, we weren't able to do everything like a normal year, but this is from whatever, a year or two ago or a couple of years ago. This kind of shows you, this is our, hopefully it pulls up. It's a huge file, so it may take a second, but this is like what the attendance one looks like. And then GPAs, a separate tab for GPAs, term 2. So you can see like GPA, seniors 3.49, juniors 3.45, sophomores 3.12, freshmen 3.19, each kid's GPA, the total, and then the count and how that's averaged out. So this is a great way for us to be able to also keep track of not just a team by team GPA, because they're getting credit in a different file for that, but also, you know, and we do grade checks every single Monday year round with our kids. So that's another thing I think that's a big push. Tasks, this is just different tasks: concussion paperwork, huddle. If they have, make sure obviously they have huddle on time and how much time spent on it. Letters written, they have to write in a certain amount of letters, thank you letters, pledges, and then physical. And then these are the different teams. So workout attendance, GPA, discipline. So they get negative points for discipline or anything in class or something stupid. Other sports, community service, school spirit, paperwork, miscellaneous, whatever, you name it. They kind of have it. And then the team points and individual points, you can kind of see at the end there how it's all ranked out. The individual winner, if it's not a team captain of the winning team, a lot of times usually it is or close to, then they'll get a prize as well. So that's kind of our NEL system in a nutshell. If there's some time or question and answer and stuff at the end, I can go through the 3 slides that I showed you are how and how we emphasize a lot of our culture and how we build relationships and the creative ideas that we do to build community and build our culture within our program. But like I said, Josh asked me to talk on a topic of our NEL program, and that's a big part of it. We also do, this is a good example of we do 1 team builder per month starting in January all the way through August. So this is dodgeball, paintball, mini golf, bowling we do at the end of it. So we try and define different ways to bring our kids together and kind of make that more family atmosphere. So, all right, how'd I do on time? I think
Love it, Coach. Yeah, you're spot on. You're right on time. That's perfect, man. Great job.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Appreciate your time. Tyler, you want to go ahead and announce last winner?
Our last winner for the t-shirt tonight, if he is still on, is Coach Rich Kirby. Coach Rich Kirby, congratulations on the shirt.
Yeah. Go ahead and leave your info in the chat, please. And then last but not least, let's get straight to it. I just cold emailed a stud strength coach. You know what I mean? I don't know Zach until, before tonight. I just kind of went to my wish list, and first on my wish list was Zach. Feel like I know the guy from reading, you read a dude's book and you follow somebody on social media. It's like, oh, Zach, like I've never met him, but I'm first naming him, you know what I mean? To like my friends and my coworkers and stuff. And so super jacked to have him on. I said, hey man, I can't pay you. I can't do much for you, but just want to ask if you can do it. And he said, yes. And so last but not least, Zach Dakant. Appreciate you coming on, bud.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Josh. Thanks for having me. Let's get this started for everybody. Everybody got that? Josh, you got that good?
Yep, good to go, man.
Are you seeing the PowerPoint or are you seeing the PowerPoint or the full screen PowerPoint? I'm sorry.
I am seeing the PowerPoint, not the full screen.
Okay. Yeah, that doesn't really matter.
It's not exactly small though, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, so we're going to talk about time constrained speed development. This was I posted this question on Twitter 3 or 4 weeks ago when Josh reached out, and this was the most asked about topic really, is how guys could do speed work in a 40 or 50 minute window that they have to develop their athletes at the high school level. So I'm going to share with you some ideas that I use with some of our summer camps that I do with youth athletes. And we'll talk about some principles of speed. I know this is a 30 slide presentation or 29 slides. It's not going to take us that long. We're going to hit this stuff fast and furious. So if there's questions along the way, please shoot them out. So first, we're going to go over our principles for speed training, the nervous system, intent, quality, recovery, and how our workloads factor into that. We need to know the rules before we break them. Something that a great coach, Stuart McMillan,